Good morning. Good morning. If you are new here among us, my name is Gene. I serve here at C3 Church as one of your pastors. Hi. He heard all the bad things about me before he came in. I have a question for you this morning. More of a theory, really. For those of you who have worked in the food service industry, you don't have to answer me now. Please don't, in fact. You can email me. I'm sure I'll be getting a lot of emails after this message this morning. So just pile them on in there. It's a theory that I have. It's a theory that I have. Specifically about waiters and waitresses. I believe I've uncovered a great secret of the food service industry, and it is this. It is that waiters and waitresses intentionally wait for your mouth to be completely filled with food before asking how your food is. I think that they think this is funny. I'm exposing some things now. I can see it on some of your faces. But it leaves you in a really awkward position, right? Or you try to answer, this is good. All right? It's not good. So here's what I want to do. Notice, operative word, want. I'm going to wait. I'm going to bait them, in fact. I'll take little bites. They get a little antsy, jumpy, trying to get, wait for it. He's going to take a much bigger bite than that. Take another little bite. Then take that fatal bite that you can't chew fast enough to answer the question. They know it. They come over. How is everything? Blech. It's great. But I'm not allowed to do that. Why? Because I'm married. I had a young man ask me if I wanted a hot dog after the service. I said, I got to ask my wife. He looked at me like I was crazy. I said, you don't understand. When you get married, you get another mom. That's the way it works. He hasn't talked to me since. It's weird. So here's what I'm going to do. Plan B. I'm going to bring someone with me who just doesn't care. Alex. Alex doesn't care. I went out, ate pizza with him one time, right? I scraped some of the cheese off of it. Why? Because sometimes too much cheese bothers my stomach also. Another bad look. Hot cheese in the mouth. Right? No good. Another bad look. Right? So he sees me doing it. He looks at me like I've committed a crime. He says, what are you doing? I just gave him half the story. Bothers my stomach. You want some? Yep. And he's grabbed it up and ate it, I think with his hands. I'm not sure. It was so fast. So I'm going to bring Alex, right? We do the setup. Alex comes in. He doesn't care. I'm good to go. So I start with the small pieces. They're coming at me. Wait for it. He's going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Get the big piece in my mouth. Come over and ask the question. Blech. Before I can answer it, Alex scoops up the food and eats it. Oh! 5-second rule. It's only been in his mouth for 4 seconds. Fair game. But even this won't work. Why? They're going to call my wife and tell on me. Mrs. Simco, you're going to have to come pick your husband up. Oh, no. Did he do that thing with the dollar bills where he stacks them up? He takes one off when the waiter does something wrong. He puts it back on when they do something right. No. But he did spit food out of his mouth. And his friend ate it. Alex! Yeah, his wife is on her way to pick him up too. We're going to go over questions this morning. People have questions for Jesus, a lot of questions for Jesus. So we'll go over the background, the context here. Mark chapter 12 starts with the parable of the tenant farmers. So there's the tenant farmers, they're renting space from a landowner, right? And the landowner wants some of the profits, so he sends servants in to collect it. And they beat him up and kill him. Then he sends his son in. They kill him. So the landowner kills them. So they all represent someone. I'm sure you can guess. The landowner is God. The tenant farmers are the Jewish leadership. The servants before the son are the prophets. Before Jesus, the son is Jesus. So it's a predictive parable of sorts. Then we get to the questions. Pharisees, Sadducees, scribes. We're going to concentrate on the Pharisees this morning. So we'll work our way backwards just really quickly to give you an idea. You have the scribes. asked the famous question, well, the scribe asked the question, what's the greatest command? Right? You guys know this? Love God. Love your neighbor. Sadducees. They have different beliefs than the Pharisees, specifically about the resurrection. So Jesus uses their weird question. It sounds kind of strange. They're like, well, a woman, her husband dies, the brother steps in, marries him. We don't do that today. They did back then. It's excessive. It happens 7 times. Who are they married to in heaven? He says, no. They're going to be like angels. They don't care about that. But let me tell you, you're wrong about the resurrection. He corrects them. Then we get to the Pharisees. So let's take a look at the text here. Mark 12, starting at verse 13. Then they sent some of the Pharisees and the Herodians to him to trap him by what he said. When they came, they said to him, Teacher, we know that you are truthful and defer to no one, for you don't show partiality, but teach truthfully the way of God. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay or should we not pay? But knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, Why are you testing me? Bring me a denarius to look at. So they brought one. Whose image and inscription is this? He asked them. Caesar's, they said. Then Jesus told them, Give back to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And they were amazed at him. So it's a setup, right? If you've worked in law enforcement, you know this is a double-edged question. They're actually feeding him the answers, right? If he says, yeah, pay the taxes, the Jewish people are going to be angry with him. If he says, don't pay the taxes, he's going to be in trouble with the Romans. So he flips it upside down on them and doesn't use any of their suggestions. He goes his own way to point out that they're hypocrites. Why are they hypocrites? Maybe they're paying the taxes. The answer's clever. Well, it's Caesar's. Give it back to him. But there's more here. It's in what he asks for specifically, the denarius. Take a look at that. So you have a denarius here. On the one side, Tiberius Augustus Caesar. On the other side, you have something interesting. I'm going to nerd out on you here. That star is a comet that flew through the sky 44 BC, right after Julius Caesar was assassinated. And there it says the divine Julius, or in other words, divine Caesar. It's saying that Caesar is a god. This is problematic if you're a Pharisee. Remember a couple weeks ago I was saying they did the money exchange? Right? Jews had their own coins minted because this was so problematic. They weren't allowed to bring it into the temple. So what he's saying is, you guys are hypocrites. You've broken the first 2 of the 10 commandments. No other gods literally before me. No graven images. Uh-oh. So Jesus throws this back at them in a very clever way. They're hypocrites. This is Jesus' main accusation against the Pharisees. What is a hypocrite? It is a person who pretends to have virtues, moral or religious beliefs, principles, etc., that he or she does not actually possess, especially a person whose actions go against the stated beliefs. You know where I'm going. Are we hypocrites? Are Christians hypocrites? Okay, this one stings, so I'm going to make it fun. Robert, bring up the slide. All right, now, I'm going to need someone from the audience at random. Oh, I don't know who. Maybe Heather. Can we hear it for Heather? Come on up, Heather. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is not going to be fun for you.
No.
All right. So we asked. Are you ready? You nervous? You okay?
I'm okay.
Okay. Heather, tell everybody where you're from.
California.
Must have taken you like 2 days to get here. That's crazy. If you've come from Bonita and you complain, stop complaining. California's a long, long way. So you don't have to laugh at me.
No.
All right, so we asked non-Christians, what word or phrase comes to mind when you hear the term Christian? What do you think they said?
Jesus.
Good answer. You're fans.
Hey.
That is good, but it's only number 3. All right, would you like to take another guess?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Hypocrite?
Oh, good guess. Very good. That wasn't hard.
No.
All right, let's try again.
Well, we're in a church. A Bible?
Bible. Oh, you're wrong. Christians don't read the Bible. You lose. You're done. It's over.
Don't I get 3 tries?
You think you're in a church or something? No. Go sit down. Let's hear it for Heather, especially for dealing with me every day. She has to deal with me every day. All right, let's try to get some of the other ones. What was number 1? Judgmental. Ooh, ouch. Ugh. All right, let's get this over with quick. Number 4, Oprah. I'm not going to elaborate on that. She does give away a lot of cars, do we? Number 5, angry. Let's keep going quick. 6, mean. Ugh, sucks. I'm going to take full responsibility for that one being up there. Some of you know why. And dead last. Dead last. Nice person. I'm glad I made that funny. Because it hurts, right? This is not what we want to think about ourselves. But unfortunately, it's what people are saying about us. We got to deal with it. We got to own it. In order to do that, we have to think of some of the ways in which we're being hypocrites so we can change some of that, except the socks. They're staying up there. So I'm going to throw myself under the bus first. Me first. Mondays. Mondays, they're the days that I do most of my office work. If you're young and you're new to business or the working world, I'll give you some good practical advice. Make a Monday morning list. You're setting yourself up for success that way. So Monday, Heather gets up early. It's the only reason I get up early. I get up early on Monday morning, and I try to complete my Monday morning list. And I get all my office work done, all my paperwork done, sermon work. I get it all in the can, so to speak. Get as much of it done as I can. So this way, if I get busy doing something else, I get called to visit someone, whatever I have to do, I'm good. I got my office work done. Now, I can't get it done here. There are too many interruptions. So I do it at home. And it's a really long day from home. The problem with that is that you get cooped up in the house. You get stuck in the house all day. So I give myself a half-hour break. And I go and I walk around my neighborhood. I enjoy Southwest Florida, the palm trees, the sun. Yay, this is why I moved down here. It's great. Now, when I'm walking, I usually see the same guy. I run into the same guy. And he's always on his phone like this, with his face like literally in the phone, just walking down the street. And I pass by him. It's the weirdest thing. I always want to say, man, get off your phone. Don't you see how beautiful it is out here? What's wrong with you? On your phone all the time, outside. Come on, man, enjoy nature, God's creation. Then I go home, and I proceed to lock myself in my house for the next 8 hours, hunched over my computer, a smartphone, or a book, not realizing that I take my walk at different times, and I usually always run into him. So who's the one who's not outside enjoying nature all the time? Hypocrite. And I do have to share something with you. It was totally crazy. We were driving, and it wasn't even in our neighborhood. We were driving in this morning on the way, and I looked, and it really was the same guy. And I was like, told the girls, I'm like, that's the guy from my sermon. That's the guy from my sermon. They're like, what are you talking about? But it was really him. Isn't that like a God thing? That's crazy. The way in the church, I've never, ever seen him before on the way in. It was like outside of our neighborhood. Crazy. So anyway, I was supposed to say that for someone, maybe me. Phones, being on your phone. Now, if you're my age or older, you remember this probably, unless I'm just weird. Your parents were always kicking you out of the house, right? I wasn't allowed to watch TV in the house during the day. It's like, get out of the house, turn off the TV. You had to wake up at like 5 in the morning right after that like color barcode thing went off, right? Remember that? And then you could watch cartoons. They put the cartoons on in the morning for kids, right? They didn't have TV on during the nighttime. Can you remember that? I'm dating myself now. But anyway, they'd kick you out of the house. It didn't matter. Go eat dirt. Get out of here. A blizzard. Get out. Get out. And you'd be out in the cold for like 12 hours, right? They didn't want you sitting around watching TV all day. But that's what kids do now. They sit in the house. I'm not looking at you, Sophie. They sit in the house on their device all the time, looking at TV, looking at the computer, doing games, whatever they're doing all day. Get out of the house. I'm going to turn the Wi-Fi off. I almost gave her a heart attack once. I'm going to turn it off for like a week. I'm going to get Wi-Fi controls, and you're not going to be able to watch TV all the time. So we're going to do that, man. We're going to do it. as soon as sports season's over. Hypocrites! Now, if you still don't think that you're a hypocrite, here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to assign a ride-along passenger for you, right, to just sit in your back seat and film you. It won't take more than a day, I'm sure. You ever get up behind someone who's at a red light? Light turns green. They don't go fast enough for your taste. Come on! You know, right? Great Christians we are. They're going, but I'm sure you've never done that. I'm sure you've never dropped something and had to pick it up. Oh, the light's green. I'm sure you've never been checking your phone, the radio, your makeup. I'm sure you've never failed to signal, rolled through a stop sign, sped through a parking lot, gone too slow in the fast lane, gone too fast in the slow lane. Oh, that's what the lanes are for? We need to clean up our side of the street. It's a good first step in getting some of these names changed on the board. So I'm going to refer to an article. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Carey Nieuwhof. I'm not endorsing any of his teachings or anything like that. I just want to give credit where credit's due. I use some of his article here. But he asks the question, how are we Pharisees today? Good question. So here are some statements that Christians make. If he knew the Bible as well as I did, his life would be better. There it is, judgment and self-righteousness rolled up in one neat little package. Now, you don't have to know me for more than one service to know I love reading my Bible, and I want everyone to read their Bible, right? But when I get smug about it, superior about it, I miss the point. Arrogance is not a Christian virtue. Another one. People who don't go to church, they can just come in anytime they want. And Nero fiddled while Rome burned. Too many churches are all about the preferences of their members rather than the power of the gospel. Now, this is something that I believe C3 is getting better and better in, but there's always room for growth. What would it look like if people cared less about song choice and more about welcoming young people in? Now, wait a minute. It works both ways. What would it look like if modern churches cared less about hurting people's feelings and more about what Jesus really said? Both ways. Oh, I don't know. Things like the danger of sin and repentance that leads to real, observable change, real transformation in people's lives. It's quiet in here right now. Do we talk about that enough? Jesus did. A lot. Can you imagine what would happen if Christians today exuded the love, grace, mercy, and truth of Christ? I think church would be a little different. And if you're with me, I think we can do it here. Amen? Amen. Let's look at another one. You shouldn't hang around people like that. I understand that we have to choose friends for our kids carefully, but when applied to adults, the thought process isn't always good. One of the reasons many churches aren't growing is because Christians don't know any non-Christians. Now, here at C3, some of you may be like, what? Because we're getting really good at that. That's where I can applaud a lot of you guys. You're bringing in people who aren't Christians. You're doing what it says on the slide at the end of service, bring a friend with you. And so we have some people here who are getting really good at that. So good job, guys. Keep going. But a lot of Christians don't. They stay in their little Christian bubbles. That's it. Jesus paid a price for hanging out with sinners. Look at Mark 2, starting at verse 15. While Jesus was reclining at the table in Levi, that's Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners were also guests with Jesus and his disciples, because there were many who were following him. When the scribes of the Pharisees saw that he was eating with sinners and tax collectors, they asked his disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" When Jesus heard this, he told them, "Those who are well don't need a doctor, but the sick do need one. I didn't come to call the righteous, but the sinners. Do we hang out with just other Christians? Now, I want to be absolutely clear about something. We are to be like Jesus and welcoming to non-believers, but we are not to engage in their activities. Important to remember. Meeting people where they are does not mean doing what they do. If you find yourself engaging in activities that are against clear biblical principles, then you need to remove yourself from the situation until you mature in your faith and your relationship with Jesus. I had to do this at the beginning of my walk, and it was very, very difficult. I lost a lot of friends. But let me be clear this morning. No one is a friend to you who causes you to compromise your friendship with Christ. To those Corinthians who are being misled and weak in their faith, Paul writes this: "Do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good morals. Come to your senses and stop sinning. For some people are ignorant about God. I say this to your shame." We're more comfortable with absolutes. We like that when we read the Bible. Black and white. But the more I read my Bible, the more I realize when you look at the context, it's often both. If the company you keep is causing you to sin, they're bad company for you. 1 Corinthians 15:33. But if you can be like Jesus and you can handle it, Mark 2. Get it? Both. Let's look at another one. More people need to stand up for Christian values. It's going to be a tough one, so just bear with me, I'll get there. As Christendom slips away in our lifetime here in the West, we long for what it used to be. But moving forward, we will have more in common with our first century counterparts in Christianity than with our 20th century forebears. They lived out their faith in a world that didn't share their values. But instead of fighting them on everything, they laid down their lives for them. We were just talking about this morning, Pastor Wayne and I, about how different, when you look at the early church fathers, things were. It was amazing. I was reading a story about Polycarp. He was John's student. He wouldn't worship the incense or something that the emperor was burning. It was something silly, right? Not even a really big deal. Any one of us would have been like, yeah, whatever, Caesar's God. Wouldn't do it. So, he has him killed. They send guards to his house. There's some kind of chase that goes on. But finally, they catch up with him. You know what he does? He insists that he serve them. The soldiers. He insists that, let me serve you a meal, please. Don't arrest me yet. Let me serve you a meal. And while you do that, I'm going to go pray. He prays for 2 hours. Amazingly, some of them actually repent and change. How different are we? Amazing. Laid down his life so that these people could see Jesus. Amazing. Now, while some people may get very angry and demand that we stand up for Christian values, I think the biblical argument, an example that we have, runs the other way. Christians should live out Christian values deeply and authentically. But why would we hold non-Christians to a standard they don't believe in anyway? Jesus and Paul never appeared to do this. Let's look at 1 Corinthians 5, starting at verse 9. Paul says, "I wrote to you in a letter not to associate with sexually immoral people. I did not mean the immoral people of this world or the greedy and swindlers or idolaters. Otherwise, you would have to leave the world. But now I am writing you not to associate with anyone who claims to be a believer, a Christian, who is sexually immoral or greedy or an idolater or verbally abusive or a drunkard or a swindler. Do not even eat with such a person. For what business is it of mine to judge outsiders? Don't you judge those who are inside?" Rhetorical, yes. But God judges outsiders. "Put away the evil person from among yourselves." Let me explain this one. It's difficult. 1 Corinthians 5, 6, 7. All about sex, sexual sin, sexual things going on in the Corinthian church, in that culture of the time. So in 5, He sets it up with this man who is apparently sleeping with his stepmother. Sounds gross. It is. It was a little bit different back then. Right? The mortality rate was much higher, especially childbirth. Women would often die. Then the husband would take often a much younger bride. Sometimes that bride would be his son's age. And this thing could happen here. It happens. Now, we're assuming here, pretty positive, that Paul went through the biblical standard for reconciliation. Hear me again. The point's reconciliation. That's the point, not judgment, not punishment. It's the prescription for reconciliation. That's the point of this. So what would he do? He'd bring him in and talk to him, or one of the leaders in the church. He's not there. Talk to him about, hey man, I know what you're doing. You got to stop. Maybe he didn't stop. Well, definitely, he didn't stop. Bring a couple more people in. Guy, you got to stop. Doesn't stop. You tell it to the church. And he kicked him out. And I think it worked. Why? Because I believe that this guy, he's nameless in both letters. In 2 Corinthians, Paul's talking about welcoming someone back in. The point is reconciliation. The broader point that I have for you this morning is, if someone comes in and they say, yeah, I want to follow Jesus. I want my life to be better. I want it to improve. I want to follow the rules. I want to read my Bible. Okay. Well, I'm going to call you out a little bit when I see you going this way. It's okay. Yeah, all right. They signed up for the rules. But people outside the church, they don't even know the rules. They have no idea. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm sure some of you guys hear it. Some of the things that people think are okay. They don't know. So you can't beat them up over it. You have to get them to see Jesus first. We need to talk to non-Christians about Jesus, not their favorite sin. Some of those things are also things that we're doing just in private and not telling anyone. I think it's better to get them to see Jesus and let him do the judging. Another one. Sure, I have a few issues, but that's between me and God. Really? Read James 5:16 again. Write that one down. And if you keep it between you and God, people will never be able to relate to you. Perfect on the outside and flawed on the inside. This is Jesus' criticism of the Pharisees. When people on the outside look at pretend to be perfect Christians, it does three things. It alienates them. It makes them think you're fake. It suggests that God can't help them. What are the antidotes? Transparency, vulnerability, and can you imagine being honest with everyone? Maybe we should try. When you let people know you don't have it all together, but you've met an amazing God, more people want to join in. Take a look at Luke 6, verse 39. Jesus also told them a parable. Can the blind guide the blind? Won't they both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like his teacher. Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but don't notice the log in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, brother, let me take out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself don't see the log in your eye? Ready for it? Hypocrite! First take the log out of your eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. We need to clean up our side of the street and live humbly as extensions of God's grace, mercy, and love. We need to acknowledge our shortcomings, and instead of beating ourselves up over it, stuffing it, and masking it with false righteousness, we need to take the log out of our eye so that we can better see the splinter in our neighbor's eye. We need to come alongside them. Say, hey, I see that splinter in your eye. I get it. You know how I get it? I just took a huge log out of my own eye, and there are probably a whole bunch of splinters still left in there. Yeah. So I know it hurts. And if you ever need help getting it out, I'm here for you. And in the meantime, let's talk about Jesus. We need to extend the grace, mercy, and love that God has for us to others. Amen? Amen. Love you.